Hello, everyone, and welcome to a huge edition of the RacingBet preview this week, taking a look at all of the horse racing action across headquarters in both Melbourne and Sydney on Saturday, March 6th. 4 Group 1s across Flemington and Randwick. We've got the Newmarket Handicap, the Australian Cup, the Randwick Guineas, and the Canterbury Stakes to finish things off over in Sydney. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined each and every week by Trent Crebbin. This week's episode is brought to you by PlayUp, so jump on playup.com.au and check out their odds ahead of the weekend's racing. Trent, you're coming to us from Melbourne this week. You've made the big move across the border. How's it all been your first week in Melbourne?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a bit busy. Trying to balance moving and uni and form it all at the same time, but we've been going well the last couple of weeks, so we'll just try and keep the same kind of rhythm going and continue it this Saturday.
Going well is an absolute understatement. You're very humble and you're very modest because you are absolutely flying, my friend. I haven't got a tally on me of the units you've posted in the last couple of meetings, but you are absolutely airborne. Just huge return after huge return, betting confidently, betting big and returning even bigger. So well done to you. And hopefully it can continue this weekend because you've seen them like beach balls. Talk to us about the Flemington card overall.
It's tough in one word. I think confidence levels are maybe just a touch down, but I still think there's some really good bets, but the card overall is a bit tricky with a lot of short priced favorites. Just comes down to a bit of a price point with a lot of them. But other than that, there's some really good races, and I think we can dissect a few and find a few good results.
Yeah, I think it's a similar case over in Sydney. Like, I think the card is just so fantastic and so deep, and there's a lot of really good betting races. And I think it's going to be a fascinating day because for the first time in probably a few weeks, we've got a firm track in Sydney. It's currently a good 4. I don't see a huge amount of rain around. Probably won't be bone dry. We're probably not going to be racing on like a good 3, but it's probably as firm as it's been in, the last few meetings. And that's going to bring about some interesting races because we've got some short price favourites who come off some very stylish wins on soft ground. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can replicate that on good ground. And that's the case in one of the day's Group 1s, the Randwick Guineas, where we've got the short price favourite Agon, who tackles a firm deck for the first time. But we'll get to that in a little while. We'll start things over with you in Flemington. We're going to kick off with your best value bet because your best bet does come up in one of the Group 1s. So we'll get to that in just a second. But we'll kick off with your best value bet. And we'll try and land a blow here at Flemington early in the day. It comes up in race number 3. You're playing 2 horses here. Horse number 1, Sosa Bon, and horse number 3, Iconoclasm. They're both around the double figure odds mark. Can't believe you're tipping Sosa Bon, but I'm not going to argue with anything you do at the moment. So talk us through your thoughts.
Yeah, we'll just hope that there's a bit of method to the madness here. And I think there is. I thought his run first up was actually really good. He was beaten about 3.5 lengths by Probabile in the Orr Stakes, around about a length off Behemoth there. Now that's clearly the best form dropping to a listed race. I know he's Sosa Bon, he's very hit and miss, but I think you're getting a decent price to find out around that $9 mark. Second up last prep, he was only beaten about 3 lengths or so in a Memsey Stakes by Behemoth as well. We ran 5th there. I just think he's the class of this field. This is one of the easier races he's contested for quite a while, and I just think he's really well placed here. Maps nicely. I just thought even with the big weight, I think he's the class of the field, and if he brings what he did first up, he'll be very hard to beat here. Knowing full well that he could just turn it up and run last, but I think you're getting a price to find out. Horse number 3, Iconoclasm, is the other one that I thought you could have something on. He's a little bit hit and miss as well. He did beat Sosa Bon one night at the Valley, which was a bit sick. I remember backing Sosa Bon that night.
Oh, that was just the best result ever. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can Quinella it again or something, and we'll get a result out of either of them here. He's really good record at the tracking distance here. He's got 3 wins from 9 starts at the Flemington 1400 meters. It's his best kind of pet trip here. First up, he's a little bit hit and miss, but I think he gets a really good map here from barrier 2. He probably just follows the leader Holbein just into the race and can just pop off the fence whenever he likes. And he gets in quite well at the weights here with 55.5 kilos, I thought. Gets nearly 5 kilos off Sosa Bon, and that's about a 4 kilo swing from when they met. So if I'm giving a good chance to Sosa Bon, I think I have to give a good chance to Iconoclasm. Damian Lane sticks with him as he has for most of his career. Loves good tracks, should find that again. And I just think he's going to get a really cozy run, and at the double figure quote, I thought you could have something on him as well.
Talk to us about this favourite Odium, who comes up around even money, I think. She's been pretty impressive in what she's done early on in her career, racing in Group 1 level and winning a Group 1 at only her 4th career start, I think it was. Mick Kent Jr. gave this filly a big rap on radio during the week. So tell us your thoughts about avoiding her.
Yeah, I think she's the horse to beat, definitely. I just thought she was a little bit short at $2. Just, you got to see how she's come back. She has trialled very well, but you got to see how she's come back. She takes on the boys for the first time. Her run in the Empire Rose at the end of last prep was very good, but she did have the 3-year-old advantage there with 49 kilos. Has to carry 54.5 here, so she's only getting a kilo off like a proven stakes class Group 3 kind of horse in Iconoclasm. So I just thought I'd rather see how she comes back here. And I think she's got bigger targets in mind. I think she's being targeted at an SA Oaks over 2,000 meters. So just thought I'd just see how she comes back here rather than pile into the even money quote. But I do concede she's a smart filly and will be hard to beat.
Okay, so Trent's best value bet of the day, should I say, comes up in race number 3. Horse number 1, So Bon, and horse number 3, Iconoclasm, both around double figure odds with play up. Let's move on to your best bet of the day, and it comes up in the first Group 1 on the card. It's race number 6. This is the Newmarket Handicap. Your best bet of the day is horse number 14, September Run, currently $2.15 with play up. Is it as good as saying that she is a complete moral?
With even luck, I can't see much going with her late, to be honest. I've never really been on the hype train with her. I was heavily against her first up in the Lightning, drifted out to $10, but I think that run has converted me. And if she wins here, she might be the new girlfriend to add to the list. But I loved that run in the Lightning first up, where she was kind of right off her feet a little bit early behind Nature Strip. That last 400, 200 meters was electric. She went very close to knocking him off there. She's better suited stepping up to 1,200 meters. The record down the straight is just phenomenal. That was her first defeat down the straight, and it was a second in a Group 1 weight for age. 54 kilos here. I don't really think it'll matter. It's just whether she finds luck from barrier 8, just drawn midfield. If she gets to clear air, I just can't see what's going to beat her here. So I think she's very hard to beat here, and it could just be as simple as she's too good for them.
She would have to be absolutely murdered by Craig Williams not to get any luck from barrier 8 here, surely.
Yeah, you never know what they're going to do down the straight. Like, they came really wide last week. So if she's kind of strung up right in the middle of traffic and they're all trying to get to the outside fence, maybe there's a bit of traffic problems. I think the best thing for her would be if they split and she comes kind of towards that inside division, and then she'll have clear air down the middle of the track. I think that's probably, if that does eventuate, she'll just win. But it all depends on what they do. And like I said, you're kind of just betting that she gets any kind of gaps from barrier 8. And if she does, I think she'll win.
It was interesting to hear Chris Waller during the week say that Imaging, which also lines up here, he was very unlucky in defeat first up in the C4 Stakes. It's interesting to hear Waller say that he was right in this race and outside of obviously September Run, one of his better chances on the day. So around $15 or $16, you could certainly include him. Some news coming through that Celebrity Queen pulled a shoe during the week at track work and is now wearing the front bar plates for the first time. So that's a huge negative for her, I would have thought. I'm really interested to see how Elite Street bounces back. Of course, he pulled up with, I think, an internal bleed out of the Lightning Stakes. It was hugely disappointing, but from all reports, he's back to his best in track work at least. So interesting to see if he brings that, and hopefully he does, because I think he's a pretty serious horse, and it'd be very disappointing if he came all the way to Melbourne to put in 2 poor performances. So let's hope he gets back to his best. Outside of those, are there any others in the race that we should be looking at?
Well, actually, I thought Elite Street, I was going to have something on him as well, just a speculative small play on him. He started about $15 or so in that Lightning. He had a bit of backing there, and you can obviously just completely forgive that. If he's coming through it well enough, I think he's better suited at the 1,200 meters here, drawn out wide, and he's one of the only Group 1 winners in the field here. So I thought he was one to include for sure. I thought the other one you could potentially have something on, I think you'll get out to a monstrous price late, is number 8, Standout. It's coming out of the Oakley Plate, finished 17th of 18 there, so didn't really do much on the form guide. Got back and wide, kind of couldn't really get into the race. I thought if he got back to his best form when he was not far off Classic, Legend and Bivouac last prep, then I thought he would probably run better than he did in the Oakley Plate, and he's around $67 or so. So I thought he was one that could be included.
Okay, let's move on to the second Group 1 of the day. This is race number 8 on the card. It's the Group 1 Australian Cup over 2,000 metres. Now, in one of your review pieces, I think it was last week, you made mention of 50 Stars coming off a terrific run last weekend. He comes into this third up from a spell on the 1 week backup. And I seem to remember in your review piece, you basically saying this horse will start a dominant favourite and he's going to be very hard to beat. Do you still think that's the case?
I do, and I've definitely got him on top. The barrier draw is not ideal for him, drawn barrier 3. I would have preferred he'd drawn midfield to out just so he could get that clear air. But I think, again, he's another one that just with even luck, I think he's going to be very hard to beat. I love that run last start in the Blamey. Came from a long way back in a very fast race, hit the line hard. He's proven on the 1 week backup. He loves this track and distance. Last prep, he was 2 lengths off Arcadia Queen into McKinnon. That's clearly good enough to win this. And then, of course, he did win this race last year over Regal Power. I think he strikes a weaker race this year. He's clearly going as well as ever. It's just whether he gets gaps from barrier 3. So I think $4 or so, I think he probably starts shorter than that, given how good he was last week and his record at the track and distance. And I think, yeah, like I said, with even luck, he's going to be very hard to beat.
Okay, is that your only play in the race, or are you looking to bet elsewhere?
I think there's a couple that are dangers. I've always had a lot of time for horse number 14, Nonconformist. I don't love the barrier draw for him, but I think he's had a good... he's coming through the 2 kind of slowly run, kind of bunch finish lead-up races, but I think he's had a good kind of building prep. He gets the blinkers on here. He's 2 from 2 at 2,000 metres, and I think he's probably one to include for sure. And the other one is the WA horse, number 10, Platoon. I think I mentioned him in a review piece as well. He was about $81 or so in the pre-post markets. I thought that was a big price. I liked his run last week over 1,400 metres. Bit of a weird prep going straight up to the 2,000, but he was running in a Perth Cup only 3 starts ago, so he should have the fitness there. And I thought he was one that could be included as well. He's around $34 now.
Yeah, I agree with you with Nonconformist too. Barrier 16 hurts, but Blinker's first time in a grand final. We saw it in the Australian Guineas last weekend, just how much effect that can have on a horse. So third up from a spell, undefeated, 2 from 2, as you mentioned at the distance. Blinker's on first time, just needs somewhat of a good run from barrier 16. Big field, but 50 Stars does look incredibly hard to beat. So that's the way Trent's going on top. Any other thoughts on the race before we move over to Sydney?
Oh, it's just a bit of a weak Australian Cup, unfortunately. The All-Star Mile was put a bit of a dent in it, but I think it's a big field, and hopefully we can find the winner, and hopefully the race gets back to a bit of its old grandeur.
Okay, moving on to Sydney, Royal Randwick headquarters, of course. 2 Group 1s on the card, like I mentioned. We've got the Randwick Guineas and followed by the Canterbury Stakes over 1,300 metres. Both really interesting races. And as I alluded to earlier in the day, they're going to be really interesting with regards to just what kind of condition the track's playing in. But before we get to those, we'll go through my best bets on the card, and then we'll take a look at the 2 features on the card. My best bet comes up in race number 4. This is a staying race over 2,000 metres. And just importantly, there's been a scratching just before we've come on to record. Entente down the bottom has been withdrawn from the race, which makes me pretty well even keener on horse number 7, Mount Popper. Going to make this horse my best of the day. He's currently around $2.45 with play up following the scratching of Entente. I thought his first up run behind Shared Ambition was absolutely outstanding. First up over the mile on a wet deck. He went head-to-head with Shared Ambition all the way down the straight here at Randwick. Back in third was All-Time Legend, who probably had excuses, but was bringing the very solid form reference to the race. So I think the form out of that race is going to prove strong. We've seen Shared Ambition since go to Melbourne and run second. So that's a good enough reference for mine. And I think Mount Popper getting up to 2,000 metres second up from a spell is the key. He did that last preparation. Granted, it was on a heavy track, a heavy 9, but he bolted in when he stepped up from 1,400 to 2,000 metres. So arguably he's got a better platform here, stepping up from the mile to 2,000 metres. Tommy Berry on barrier 1. Obviously, Sacramento is going to lead and be hard to run down, but I think with even luck, Mount Popper is the better horse, and I think he'll be winning this. So that's race number 4, horse number 7, Mount Popper. The other horse in that race, I'm actually really keen to have something on, and it's near double figures, might come down to around $8 now following the scratching of Entente, but it's horse number 3, the Lord Mayor. This is Chris Waller, James McDonald. Brings a perfect setup here. 2 runs back, 1,600, 1,900, now up to 2,000 metres, third up from a spell. He's got a terrific record third up, 5 starts, 3 wins and 2 minor placings. He's won over the track and distance previously. J-Max sticks with him and draws well enough in barrier 5. So if ever he's going to win a race like this is the time that he'll be doing it. And decent price at around $8, as I mentioned, with play up. So that's my best bet of the day. Race 4, number 7, Mount Popper, and also playing horse number 3, the Lord Mayor. We'll move on to my best value bet of the day. It comes up a little bit earlier in the card. In fact, the race immediately prior to that. It's race number 3. Tricky race to work out, and I actually found it really difficult to kind of label one horse my best value bet of the day at Randwick. But this is the Group 2 Riesling Stakes for the 2-year-old fillies, and I'm actually keen on having something on horse number 6, Joyous Legend, here for the Les Bridge camp. Karen McAvoy takes the ride. Comes off a maiden victory on debut at Gosford, where it won by about 2.5 lengths on a heavy track. Now, typically for a race like this, you wouldn't go diving into Gosford form. But I think it was basically just an easy kill before coming to its home track here at Randwick to tackle a harder race. Les Bridge runners at Randwick is just the old thing to look for in the form, basically. They just always run well, these horses, Les Bridge runners at Randwick, and I think this will be no different. It looked a pretty even race to my eye, and as I said, even though it brings a moderate form line, I expect this filly to run really well. Drawn well in barrier 3. Karen McAvoy jumps off the Godolphin runner Vianello in order to keep the ride, to take over the ride here, should I say. And at around $7.50 at play up, I think this is a decent each way bet in what looks an open race. Probably could have something on Vianello, even with Karen jumping off. Rachel King takes the ride from barrier 1. Didn't get any luck whatsoever behind Stay Inside last start. Stay Inside's obviously very high up in the Golden Slipper betting. And should have finished much closer than the 4-length margin that was posted. So no surprise to see Vianella come out and run well as well. But best value of the day, race 3, number 6, Joyous Legend, currently around $7.50 with play up. We'll get into the 2 Group 1s at Randwick now. Trent, have you had a chance to run your eye over either feature race in Sydney?
Yes, I've had a look at them for sure.
Okay, we'll kick off with the Randwick Guineas, and as I alluded to before, I find this race a really interesting betting affair, purely because the track is going to be probably in the good 4 range. So like I said at the top of the show, we've seen this track at Randwick be in the soft range for a number of weeks now. It's been a while since we've had a good track. And that makes it really interesting for this favourite, who's currently around $2.10, and that's horse number 1, Aegon, the Kiwi. He just looks something out of the box. He could be a potential superstar, but my big query is that he's 5 from 5. All 5 career starts have been on soft ground, and he's bred by Sacred Falls out of a Zabeel mare. So everything about him, his profile, his breeding, and his form screams wet tracker. That's not to say he's not going to be able to do it on a dry deck. He may well just come out and win this by 3 lengths, but I think he's well and truly short enough at around 210, given that all his form and all his breeding and everything about him suggests that he could be a mudlark. Do you share that same opinion, or do you think he's just going to come out and win?
I'm a little bit on the fence here. I thought his price is probably about right. I think it probably won't matter too much. I still think he'll probably be too good here. I think his drawn out's probably a positive for him rather than last start where he was held up to the 1,600 meters. Will definitely suit off that run. And I don't think anything really will be turning the tables on him from that Hobartville run with even luck.
Yeah, there is a few that interest me in the race around him, and this is what makes it such a fascinating race, because the prices we're getting about a few horses kind of tempts me to go against him. Like, on the form, he's the obvious horse to go with, and he's going to be incredibly hard to beat. But like I said, you're going to have to take 210. And outside of him, there's a few at decent odds. Peltzer gets back to Randwick. We know this horse is purely a Randwick horse. I said in my review piece after the Hobartville Stakes that this horse getting back to Randwick, if we were to get a decent price, you could almost jump back on him. He's had 10 career starts. 6 of those have been wins. He's 5 out of 5 at Randwick, and he's never won from 4 starts at Rose Hill. So getting back to Randwick is definitely the key for this horse. Sure to go forward from barrier 13. Tim Clark aboard up to the mile, third up from a spell. Getting back to Randwick on a firm deck with $10 available is somewhat of an appealing price for mine. Outside of him, really interested also to see how Mo'unga goes. Second start for Annabelle Neesham. First up was good in the CSA Stakes at Flemington. Trent, you have a good gauge on him. Blinker's first time here?
Yeah, I thought he was the logical danger here. I think he was another one we had in the horses to follow from a few weeks ago in the CSAs. I really liked his run there, where he really hit the line strongly in a fast run race. I think that'll bring him on nicely for the mile here. The barrier is probably a little bit sticky on the inside. But I think if the guts come, he's come back just as well as he had last prep. And I think he runs well here and he's going to be really hard to beat in the Rosehill Guineas over 2,000 metres.
Yeah, that's the query, whether he's going to need that 2,000 or whether he's going to be sharp enough 1,600. Are you concerned about the form out of that race out of the CSAs? We saw Tagaloa come out and run third as the favourite, I think, and then Asar was dreadful.
Yeah, I have been a little bit suspect, I said, on that kind of all that 3-year-old Melbourne form. But I just thought he was the one first up there. His run was quite similar to Cherry Tour Tony, where they both kind of got back. They were really run off their legs early because there was such a fast run race that they weren't fit enough to really go that well, but they really hit the line strongly. And I think he's one of the only ones that you can take out of that race. And yeah, I think he's going to be better suited up to the 1,600. But yeah, I agree that the form around him has looked a little bit shaky.
The last horse at absolutely enormous odds that I'm going to have a little peanut on is horse number 2, King's Legacy. Trent, you'll probably call me an idiot for this, but he's around $34 and he always improves second up from a spell. He always kind of needs his first up run. I think the keys are second up today, up to the mile, back onto a firm deck. Drawn barrier 3, we might be able to see him a touch closer. Look, he was well beaten by Aegon in the Hobartville Stakes, but I expect him to improve pretty sharply. Not sure how much longer we're going to see this colt racing for, but I just thought at blowout odds he could be included in the numbers. So in summary, Aegon definitely the horse to beat. Do I want to take $2.10? No. At that price on a firm track, I'm going to bet around him. Look, he could come out and win by 3. I'm not going to be betting big purely because I do have a lot of respect for him. But I thought with $10 available, Peltzer was a bet. I thought $6.50 was probably acceptable for Mo'unga, and I thought $34 for King's Legacy. You could have just a little nickel on that one. So that's the Randwick Guineas, race number 7 at Randwick on Saturday. We'll move on to the second Group 1, which is race number 8 immediately after. This is the Group 1 Canterbury Stakes over 1,300 metres. Market headed by Bivouac here, Trent. First up over 1,000 metres in the Lightning behind Nature Strip. How did you assess his performance there?
Well, I think it just confirmed that he's not a 1,000-metre horse. They just went too fast for him and he was run off his feet. He wasn't able to really get into the race and he was just kind of had to chase a long way out behind Pippi and Nature Strip. You know, he wasn't beaten that far. He was beaten 2.5 lengths, which is not terrible, but overall he was disappointing. So you'd hope for an improved run at this start.
Yeah, he's another one I found kind of difficult to assess, like $2.60, $2.70 at the moment at play up. If he was to bring his best, he'd obviously blow this field away. But the first up run kind of just graded me up a little bit. Like he was hemorrhaged in betting. Started, he was like $2.50 to $2.15 or something at the jump. And he just never looked likely. And I get your point, him not being I don't think he's necessarily a first up horse either. He's definitely not a 1,000-metre horse. So second up to 1,300 definitely suits better. He's never finished out of the top 2 when second up from a spell. Barrier 8, where do we expect him to get to in the run from barrier 8?
I think they probably have to get a fair way back and try and hope to get one off the fence. Probably just worse than midfield, I would suggest. I think that's probably where I've got him going.
Yeah, that's about where he ended up in the Everest second up last preparation. So I'll probably agree with you there. Just worse than midfield. Again, look, tough one to kind of bet into. Outside of him, I did think there were probably a couple that you could make a case for. Number 2, Dreamforce resumes here. First up, Blinkers goes straight on. So I think he was down to run last weekend and I was keen on him there as well, but they obviously scratched him to save him for this race. Maybe it was the wet track. Maybe they wanted to come here to a firmer surface. But first up, 1,300. He's got a phenomenal record at this track. He's had 6 wins and 3 placings from 17 starts. He's had 3 starts at the distance, never finished out of the top 2. His only start at the track and distance was a win. He goes super on good ground, 12 wins from 26 starts. As I said, blinkers on. Surely he just jumps to the front here off 3 trials. He's got a great first up record. I can see him running a massive race first up at double figure odds here. We're getting $11 or $12. He's definitely going to give a good side out in front. I want to get your thoughts on Masked Crusader. Obviously, he's a horse that's been a little bit polarizing over time, but he was explosive first up from the spell. Absolutely dominant turn of foot for the final 200 metres. This is the first time he's kind of been tested at this level. How do you see him measuring up?
I think in time, he'll definitely measure up. He's always really just had that tag of his Group 1 horse in time. Whether this is the kind of the race that we get to see him really perform at the Group 1 level, I'm not sure. That first up run was very good, obviously. He didn't beat a whole lot there, and he kind of had the conditions to suit there. Like, he got in low at the weights, he kind of got to the outside, got a clear run. I just thought it was a little bit of a different setup here, and I thought $6 was probably a touch short.
It's interesting to just read back on the notes that there was a change of tactics before that last start with the option to settle further forward if he begun well. He ended up taking a sit. He did begin fairly well. He sat third or fourth in the run and then kind of came with an bloody electric turn of foot for the final 200. Yeah, I'm really interested to see how he measures up. I think $6 is about the right price. I probably wouldn't want him any short of first test at weight for age Group 1 level. But look, it really wouldn't surprise me to see him come out and win this. It really wouldn't. But yeah, I agree. At the price, he's probably about as short as you'd want. Kementari, we see your favourite boy Kementari return to the races. Could he be a chance here?
He's never been one of mine. I don't know where you're getting that from. I'll admit to having plenty of favourites, but he's never been one.
He's certainly not.
Yeah, no idea
either.
what to make of him. Yeah, no idea what to make of him.
Oh, you couldn't tip him in this, could you?
No, I don't think you could. I don't think so.
God bless him.
No,
after I declared Celebrity Queen a complete moral back in the Ascot Carnival, and there's Kementari of all horses rolling her, and of course she comes out at her next start and wins a Group 1 in Melbourne. That's how good I go sometimes. Savatiano, $4.50, $4.60 in the market. She's got a terrific second up record, 8 starts, 2 wins, 5 second placings. She'll probably run second again to something. What that something is the key. I can't back her to win here, but look, I could certainly make the case she's going to run well. But I just think weight for age Group 1 against the boys, she might just find 1 or 2 better here.
She's not quite up to them, I don't think.
No, I agree.
Her whole career, she's never really been up to the boys at weight for age, especially like if it was first up, you'd maybe give her a chance. She beat Colding first up. Probably a bit short for him anyway, but I just never think she's really been up to them. Yeah. She's never really been up to the boys at weight for age, so I was happy enough to be against her.
Oh, she was absolutely blessed in that run too. First up 1200, soft deck, like just everything in her favour, jumped to the front and never looked back. They ran it slowly. Yeah, I'm against her here. As I said, she can definitely run a place. She's definitely got claims, but I don't think she's necessarily up to the bigger players in this race. So basically the summary of this is if Bivouac turns up, it could be all over. There are some reservations after that first up run. At the price, I'd probably want somewhere around $3 to be backing him. I do think Dreamforce at double figure odds is a good bet. And Masked Crusader, depending on price, I probably can't back him right now at $6. But if he was to get out near, $8 or $9, I could certainly entertain having something on him. You got any other thoughts on the Group 1 Canterbury Stakes?
Just the more I look at it now, the more I'm warming to Bivouac, I think, a bit more. Just think he's much better suited at 1,300 metres, second up. Second up last prep, he was second in an Everest. And I think a repeat of that run would see him winning this. He gets a dry track as well, which he goes much better on. So I just think he's the class of the field. I think he's probably a fair enough price at around 260, 270.
Speaking of the Everest, Classique Legend back to his best at the trials the other day in Hong Kong. When he first went to Hong Kong last year and he trialled and the jury was out as soon as he trialled, and it was a poor trial by his standards. But he came out and jumped out the other day and looked significantly better, went to the line under a stranglehold, looks to be back at his best. We should see him in the next few weeks, which is exciting. And speaking of good trials, didn't your girl Arcadia Queen set the house on fire at Bendigo the other day?
Yes, she did. She looked very good, winning a jump out over 1,000 metres. Went to a line under a hold, won up by about 6 lengths. Looked very good, and I think she's the clear number 1 seed for the All-Star Mile next week.
Yeah, I'm right in her corner. She could be, she's the one to beat for sure for me. That'll do us this week, I think. I'm off to Bunbury for Bunbury Cup Day on Saturday. I'm going to have a full race-by-race preview up on RacingBet. I'm also part of a punters panel, I think, for charity on track in front of about 300 people, which is exciting. Got a good team of punters lined up to get us through the card. So if you're at Bunbury for Bunbury Cup Day, come and say g'day. And if you're not, then you can find all of our selections up on RacingBet. Trent will have Flemington covered. I've got Randwick covered. Bunbury will be covered. And the Brisbane meeting this week, where are we? After the Sunshine Coast last week, we are
Eagle Farm.
Back at Eagle Farm. So Josh will have Eagle Farm covered. Very quickly.
And also I will,
Yep.
just to cut in quickly 1 sec. And also Monday, Adelaide Cup Day, I will have definitely something for the feature and some of the other races covered for sure. And I'll be on track there back in Adelaide for the weekend. So that'll be up on racingbet.com.au sometime
Busy
this
man.
weekend.
I'll give you the tip for the Adelaide Cup.
Yeah, she'll be very hard to beat.
Charlie Rose by about 6.
Yeah, I think. She could be a moral bet.
Could be. I don't think there's any could be about it. Charlie Rose will be winning the Adelaide Cup. Go and get on now. That'll do us this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in again. Thanks to Play Up for sponsoring us this week. You can find everything on www.racingbet.com.au.